Welcome to Module 2, Building Better Soils. I'm Heather Darby, an agronomist with the University of Vermont Extension. In our basic organic dairy course, we went over soil basics, and in Module 2, Building Better Soils, we'll cover a more in-depth look at soil and managing the soil on your dairy farm. In this presentation, we're going to give you an introduction to the overall module, Building Better Soils. We're going to cover soil as a system and why we need to manage for a healthy soil. We'll talk about ways to diagnose soil health on your farm, and then we'll end the presentation with an overview to the rest of the module. Managing soil health on your farm is critical to the overall production of your organic dairy. Now, if you remember from Course 1, soil health is the physical, chemical, and biological properties working together for the plant that is health-sustaining. And it's really not just for the plant. If your soil is healthy, then your plants will be healthy, your animals will be eating better plants, and then your animals will produce healthier products, whether it's meat or milk, and the overall ecosystem itself will also be much healthier. And really, this is a long-term ecosystem-based perspective of managing your soil. So again, why would we manage for healthy soil on our farms? Overall, we want to improve forage quantity and quality on our organic dairy farms. Our homegrown forage is the primary feed, nutrient source that we should be providing to our animals on our organic dairies. So not just having high quantities of feed, but also really high quality is important to our overall success. When our animals are eating high quality homegrown feeds from our farm, then it's been shown through research that these animals will be much healthier. Healthy soils will also help minimize our overall environmental impact. Healthy soils help protect the soil from erosion and degradation into our local streams or surface waters. And lastly, managing for healthy soils helps us to maximize overall profitability on our farms. Healthy soils, again, help improve and increase forage quantity and quality, which can help reduce the need to purchase off-farm feed sources. Having healthier animals also results in lower vet bills, and minimizing our impact on the environment keeps our soil on our farms and out of our community's waterways. And lastly, building a healthy soil helps to build resiliency on your farm. Healthy soils can withstand some of the pressures that we are facing with an erratic climate and a very unpredictable climate. As you can see here in this photograph, this soil here had just received a 7-inch rainfall, and you can see the degradation of the soil through erosion and small gullies forming, but what you can also see is that there's nothing growing here. The corn crop that was growing there had been washed away. And right next to it is a soil that was in a much better rotation, rotated into corn out of a high biomass cover crop, and you can see the overall structure of the soil is still maintained even after that very heavy rain event. These crops were fine in this field and recovered quite nicely, where the crops in this field had to be replanted, and there was a significant investment to get a crop from that field in that year. So building healthy soils, again, can help us withstand some of the impact that we're feeling from climate change. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about measuring soil health and how do we know if our soils are healthy. It's really important for us to always be observing and recording and monitoring what we do on our farms, and it's no different when we're talking about soil. We're generally really good at monitoring and observing the animals on our farms, but we don't always think about monitoring and observing the soil on our farms. So the power of observation is probably the #1 test that you can implement on your farm to basically look at and monitor soil health. So in terms of observation, what are we looking for? We're looking for a friable soil that breaks up loosely in your hands. We're looking for biological life in the soil. Again, a nice crumbly structure, no surface crusting. So there's a lot of soil health indicators that we can just observe with our eyes and also by looking at our crops. If we've been really good at fertilizing our fields, but we're still seeing crops that are of poor productivity, maybe off-colored, and just not performing the way that we think that they should be, there could potentially be an issue with the other factors in our soil, the biological or physical structures. So once we use our observational skills and the information that we've gathered from observing the soils on our farms, it might be time to try to diagnose what might be going on in those fields. So as an example, in a field that we can see isn't producing very well, we may start just by taking a standard soil test. And although a standard soil test really is focused on the chemical aspects of your soil, it can also provide us with some insight about the overall health of the biology and also the physical structure of the soil. So on a basic soil test, we generally, again, are focused more on the chemical aspects of the soil. And as you can see here, we're given ranges of phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium found in this particular soil. And you can see just by looking at the soil test that it's optimum in these 3 macronutrients. So we know that the limitation that we're seeing in our crops is not related to these nutrients. So then we can look at the rest of the soil test. We can see that the soil pH is adequate as well for production of, let's just say, grass. And again, the nutrients are well in the range of where they should be for these agricultural crops. So right away we know that it's probably not nutrients that are limiting productivity of this soil and of those crops. Now we can look over at the organic matter level in the soil test, which is over here, and we can see that it's 4.3%, which is good. 4 to 6% is generally where we'd like to see most soils be, at least in the Northeast. When they're higher than that, then that's great as well. But we can see that it's not a soil that's low in organic matter, but maybe could benefit from more biological activity or life. You can also see here the effective cation exchange capacity is 11.5, which also helps us understand how well the soil can actually hang on to nutrients. And in some cases, it also lets us know how much organic matter is in the soil. So in this case, we generally look for a range of 10 to 12 milliequivalents per 100 grams of soil, and this soil has 11.5. So it has good soil fertility, adequate organic matter, it could be better, and the cation exchange capacity is good as well. So there's no real chemical issues that we're seeing in this particular field. So we need to look elsewhere. And then how do we do that? How do we diagnose if there's biological limitations or even physical limitations in the soil? Now again, you can use some on-farm tools to figure out if there's physical constraints. As an example, you can actually use a wire rod that can be pushed into the ground to look for compacted layers, or you can borrow a soil penetrometer from an extension office or Natural Resource Conservation Service office to look for compacted layers in your soil. That's an easy practice to do to help figure out if there's some physical constraints. In terms of the overall structure of the soil, again, looking at the soil, if it's nice and crumbly like you see in this picture, it's likely that it may not be aggregate stability or the physical structure of your soil that's causing an issue. You can look for compaction using the wire rod method as I just described. And then if you're still not seeing what the problem can be, you can turn to one of the other soil health tests that are available through commercial labs. One of the soil health tests that's available in the Northeast to growers is the Cornell Soil Health Test, and this is a picture from their website, and their website is listed down here at the bottom, so you can go there and see what they have to offer. The Cornell Soil Health Test is a test, again, for farmers and others to measure the overall health of their soil. It looks at the biological indicators, physical indicators, and chemical indicators, and it provides you a score or report card for your farm to figure out what the health of your soil is like compared to other similar soil types in our region. So this is a way to help you further investigate what some of the soil health constraints might be in that particular field. There are other soil health tests that are available. The Solvita test and the SLAN test are both tests that really are looking at overall biological activity of your farm. or of a field, and relatively new is a test that is more similar to the Cornell soil health test that provides a more holistic view of the farm, both the chemical, the physical, and the biological properties. And the Haney soil health test actually incorporates the Solvita test in its procedures. So these are all strategies that can be used to look at the health of the soil on your farm. There are many ways to test the overall health of your soil, which start with the power of observation and observing your soil and putting together the pieces that you see on your farm related to management, productivity of your crops, and visually inspecting what it looks like. And then from there, standard soil tests can provide you lots of information about the chemical aspects of your soil, but also help you peer in to the physical and the biological aspects of the soil as well. If you need help from there, then there are other tests such as the Cornell soil health test, Solvita test, SLAN test, and other tests like the Haney soil health test. So as we move through Module 2, we will continue to cover information on soil management. We'll go into depth on nutrient cycles, talk a bit about on-farm nutrient sources and credits, and then finish up with some nutrient management planning basics to help you take this information from your office out into the field.